40 cadets stood in a circle on the hot stone floor. The sun of Thesson 4 burned through the dome above them. Sand and dust covered everything outside the training facility. This was the Galactic Survival Academy, where soldiers from across the galaxy learned to stay alive in the worst places the universe could offer. Instructor Morven walked among them. He was tall, almost 3 meters, with 4 arms and scales that changed color with his mood. Right now, they were a calm blue. He had taught survival for 200 years. He had seen every species fail and succeed. He believed he understood the limits of all living things. Danny Reeves watched him approach. Danny was 28 years old, born in the Arizona desert on Earth. He had spent 6 years as a wilderness rescue specialist, pulling lost hikers from canyons and finding people who had wandered into places they should not have gone. He was not tall. He was not strong compared to most aliens here. But he was patient, and he knew how to watch and wait. Morven stopped at each cadet and assigned equipment based on their species rating. The Dravosi, a massive creature named Gorin, received a full survival pack. His species was rated highly for strength and endurance. The Brevin, a small insectoid named Pilu, received mid-tier equipment. Their species could dig and had good instincts. Then Morven reached Danny. The instructor pulled up a screen showing Earth's data. His scale shifted to an amused yellow. Other cadets turned to watch. "Human," Morven said. "From Earth. Let me see what your species offers." He read from the screen. "No natural armor. No clothes. No venom. Poor sense of smell. Average hearing. Cannot see in darkness. Cannot regulate body temperature efficiently. Requires water every few hours. Requires food daily. Sleeps for 1/3 of each rotation cycle." Some cadets laughed. Gorin made a sound like grinding rocks, which was Dravosi amusement. Morven continued. "Your species survived a death world, which is impressive. But you did so through luck and tool use, not biological advantage. Here, you'll have minimal tools. Let us see what remains." He handed Danny a torn piece of tarp, a blade so dull it could barely cut, and an empty water container. "Your survival probability rating," Morven announced to the group, "is 4%. The lowest I have ever assigned." More laughter. Danny took the equipment without complaint. He examined each item carefully. The tarp had holes but could still provide shade. The blade was dull but could be sharpened with the right stone. The container was empty but functional. Pilu, the Brevin, stood nearby. Their wings twitched with discomfort. They did not laugh. "Instructor," Pilu asked quietly, "is it fair to give such poor equipment?" Morven's scales flashed orange with irritation. "Fair? The universe is not fair. If the human cannot survive with basic tools, then the human should not be here. This assessment tests true survival ability, not equipment management." Danny said nothing. He had learned long ago that arguing changed nothing. Results changed things. The assessment zone is 500 kilometers of desert, Morven explained to all cadets. You will be dropped at random locations. You must survive 3 rotations. Water sources are limited. Predators exist. Temperature will reach 60 degrees in daylight. You may cooperate or compete. Your choice. Extraction will occur automatically after 3 rotations or when your vital signs indicate near death. He paused and looked directly at Danny. Most of you will not last 1 rotation. Some of you will not last half a rotation. His scales shifted to confident green. Any questions? Danny raised his hand. Yes, human. How long is 1 rotation on this planet? 32 standard hours. Why do you ask? Just planning, Danny said. Morven made a sound that might have been a laugh. Planning. With 4% survival odds. I admire your optimism, if not your chances. The cadets were led to drop ships. Danny walked beside Pilu. I am sorry they laughed, Pilu said. Their voice was soft, almost musical. I have read about humans. Your species has done remarkable things. Thank you, Danny said. What's your name? Pilu. I am Brevin. We are burrowers. Good at digging, not good at finding things to dig toward. Maybe we can help each other, Danny said. Pilu's wings fluttered with hope. You would work with me? Even though cooperation is not required. Where I come from, Danny said, cooperation is how we survived everything. They boarded separate drop ships. Danny found a seat near a window and looked out at the endless brown desert below. He had seen places like this before. He had walked through them, searched them, survived them 0.4%, the instructor had said. Danny smiled slightly. He had worked with worse odds, and he had never lost anyone he went looking for. The drop ship's engines fired. The desert rushed up to meet him. Somewhere behind him, in the command center, Morven was probably already writing his report about the human who would die first. Danny planned to make him rewrite it. The ground hit Danny hard. He rolled twice and came to a stop on cracked earth that felt like touching a hot pan. The drop pod had released him at low altitude, standard procedure for survival assessments. No yente landings. No help. He stood up slowly and looked around. Nothing but flat, broken ground stretched in every direction. The twin suns hung overhead, white and merciless. Heat waves made the horizon shimmer and dance. There was no shade, no plants, no visible water, just earth and sky and silence. Danny checked his equipment. Dull blade, empty container. His uniform was already soaked with sweat. The heat was brutal, somewhere around 60 degrees, hot enough to cook an egg on the ground. Most people in this situation would panic. Most people would start walking, searching desperately for water or shade. Danny had seen it many times in rescue work. Panic made people move fast and die faster. Danny sat down, but he found a small depression in the ground where the heat was slightly less intense. He arranged the torn tarp over his head for minimal shade, and he watched in the command center 500 kilometers away. Instructor Morven frowned at his monitoring screen. "What is the human doing?" he asked. His assistant checked the data. "Nothing, sir. His vital signs show he is calm. Heart rate is elevated from heat, but not from stress. He appears to be sitting and observing." Observing what? There is nothing to observe. On other screens, cadets were already struggling. Goran the Dravosi was using his massive strength to dig into the ground, searching for underground water. He was working hard and fast, burning through his energy reserves. A Mellori cadet with 4 eyes was walking in circles, looking for any sign of life. 2 cadets were already showing dangerous vital signs, their bodies failing in the extreme heat. But Danny just Saturday for 2 hours, he watched the ground. He watched the sky. He watched the cracks in the earth and the way the heat moved across the landscape. He was looking for something that sensors and scanners could not detect. He was looking for life. Just before sunset, he found it. Tiny insects, no bigger than ants, began emerging from cracks in the ground. They moved in a specific direction, always the same direction, forming thin lines across the earth. Danny watched them carefully. Then he looked up. Small flying creatures, similar to birds, were circling a point in the distance. Not hunting, just circling, as if waiting for something. Danny stood up. He began walking, not fast, not slow, following the insect trails. The suns were setting now, and the temperature was dropping. This was the time to move. Morven watched the human's tracker move across the map. "He is heading northeast," the assistant reported. "There is nothing in that direction, according to our surveys." "Then he is walking to his death," Morven said. But he did not look away from the screen. Danny walked through the night. The desert cooled quickly after sunset, becoming almost pleasant. He had learned this in Arizona. Deserts were places of extremes. Deadly hot in day, sometimes freezing at night. The key was to move when the temperature allowed and rest when it did not. As dawn approached, he reached a formation of rocks. Among them, he found what he was looking for, a deposit of hard, glass-like stone. Flint, or something very similar. Danny picked up several pieces and examined them. Good quality, sharp edges when broken correctly. He began to work in the command center. Alarms went off as Danny's monitors detected blood. "The human is injured," the assistant said. "Should we prepare extraction?" Morven enlarged the video feed. He watched Danny striking stones together, carefully shaping them. Blood dripped from small cuts on his hands, but his face showed only concentration. "He is not injured." Morven said slowly. He is making tools. The assistant looked confused. Making tools? But we gave him a blade. A dull blade. He is making sharp ones. Morven's scales shifted to an uncertain gray color. I have not seen this before. This is not in any survival database. Danny worked for 3 hours. When he was done, he had a sharp cutting blade, a digging implement with a pointed end, and a scraping tool. His hands were cut and sore, but the bleeding had stopped. Human blood clotted quickly. Another survival adaptation from Earth. He wrapped his hands with strips torn from his tarp and looked at his new tool's 0.4% survival odds. Danny smiled and started walking again. He had water to find. By midday of the second rotation, Danny had found a riverbed. It cut through the landscape like a scar, wide and deep, with smooth stones lining its bottom. It was completely dry. Not a single drop of water anywhere. Just sand, rocks, and the bones of small creatures that had died waiting for rain that never came. In the command center, Morven saw Danny's destination on the map. The human has made a critical error, he announced. His scales turned a satisfied blue. That riverbed has been dry for over 300 years. Our geological surveys confirm it. There is no water there. Other instructors gathered around his screen. Word had spread about the strange human who made tools from rocks and walked through the night. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Perhaps he will realize his mistake and move on, one instructor suggested. Perhaps, Morven said, but dehydration is affecting his judgment now. His bio readings show he is less than 6 hours before organ failure begins. They watched Danny climb down into the riverbed. They expected him to search the surface, find nothing, and collapse in despair. Instead, Danny started digging. He chose a specific spot, a bend in the riverbed where the rock walls curved inward. Above this spot, he had noticed 3 things. First, the roots of dead plants reached deeper here than anywhere else. Second, the sand was slightly darker in color. Third, tiny insects were concentrated in this area, hiding under rocks. These were signs his grandfather had taught him in the Arizona desert. Water does not disappear. It just hides, and living things always know where it is hiding. Danny used his crude stone digging tool. The work was slow and painful. His muscles burned. His throat was so dry it hurt to swallow. The twin suns beat down on him without mercy, 0.1 meter deep. Just dry sand. The instructors in the command center shook their heads. Some turned away, unwilling to watch the human die from pointless labor, 0.1 meters. Still dry, Morven leaned forward. The human was not stopping. His vital signs were critical now. His heart was working too hard. His body temperature was rising. But he kept digging 0.2 meters. Danny's stone tool hit something different. The sand here was not completely dry. It was slightly damp, sticking together in clumps. He dug faster, 0.2 meters. The sand became mud. Thick, brown, wet mud, 0.3 meters. Water began seeping into the hole. Dirty, brown water filtering up from somewhere deep underground. Danny dropped his tools and fell to his knees. He cupped the muddy water in his hands and let it drip through his fingers. In the command center, there was complete silence. That is impossible, Morven whispered. His scales were pale, almost white. Our sensors scanned that entire area. There is no water source there. His assistant checked the data 3 times. The sensor scanned for surface water and near-surface aquifers, sir. This water source is deeper than our standard scanning depth. We never looked that far down because nothing should be able to reach it. Nothing except a human with a stone tool. Danny used his torn tarp as a filter. He held it over his container and poured the muddy water through. The tarp caught the worst of the dirt. The water that dripped through was still brown, but it was drinkable. He filled his container. He drank slowly, small sips, knowing that drinking too fast would make him sick. Then he did something that surprised everyone watching. He kept digging. He widened the hole. He built up the edges with stones to prevent collapse. He created a proper water collection point, enough for more than just himself. Morven watched the human survival odds update on his screen. The number changed from 4% to 47%. Sir, his assistant said carefully, how did he know? How did he know where to dig? Morven did not answer immediately. He was reviewing the footage, watching Danny observe the insects, study the plant roots, examine the color of the sand. All things the Academy's advanced technology had ignored because they seemed unimportant. He read the desert, Morven finally said. Not with scanners. Not with technology. He read it the way his ancestors must have read it thousands of years ago. He looked for life, and life led him to water. The assistant was quiet for a moment. Should we update our survival training protocols, sir? Morven's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a thoughtful purple. I think, he said slowly, we should keep watching. I suspect the human is not finished teaching us things. In the riverbed, Danny sat beside his water source and rested. His hands were raw and bleeding again. His body ached. But he was alive, and somewhere out there, other cadets were dying of thirst. Danny looked at his water supply, then at the horizon. He had enough for himself. But enough for himself had never been the goal that he started building a signal fire. Goran arrived first. The massive Dravosi came over the ridge like a walking mountain, his gray skin cracked from the heat, his forearms hanging loose with exhaustion. He had tried to dig for water using only his strength. He had failed. Now, he was dying, and he knew it that he stopped when he saw Danny sitting beside the hole in the riverbed. He smelled the water before he saw it. Human, Goran growled. His voice was rough, damaged by dehydration. Give me water. Danny did not move. There is enough for both of us. But I will not give it to you. Goran's massive hands formed fists. You refuse? I will take it. You could try, Danny said calmly. But you are weak now. And even if you took it, you would drink it all and die anyway when it runs out. I am offering something better. What? I will teach you how to find your own water. Goran stood still for a long moment. Pride and survival instinct fought inside him. Survival won. He sat down heavily across from Danny. Teach me. Danny gave him water first, small amounts, slowly. Then he explained everything. The insects that moved toward moisture. The plants with deep roots. The color changes in sand. The way rock formations trapped underground water. Goran listened without interrupting. This knowledge, Goran said when Danny finished. This is not technology. This is something else. My people call it wisdom, Danny said. It is knowledge passed from parents to children for thousands of years. My grandfather taught me. His grandmother taught him, all the way back to the beginning. We Dravosi do not have such things. We rely on strength. Strength does not require wisdom. Strength failed you today. Goran made a sound that might have been a laugh. Yes, it did. By evening, more cadets had arrived. Pilu the Brevin found a signal fire and flew toward it. A Mel Lori with 4 eyes named Ressa had followed the smoke. 2 Corvalli, a species that looked like walking trees, had sensed the water from kilometers away but could not dig deep enough to reach it. Danny welcomed them all. He gave them water, and then he taught them that in the command center. Morven watched 17 cadets gather around the humans' camp. Some were species that usually competed. Some had been taught to see other species as enemies. But they sat together, sharing water, sharing knowledge. This breaks all assessment protocols, his assistant said. The survival test is individual. Competition is expected. Cooperation at this level has never been recorded. I am aware, Morven said quietly. Should we intervene? No. We watch. We learn. At the camp, Danny organized the cadets based on their abilities. Pilu and the other Brevin could dig faster than anyone. Danny showed them how to identify good digging spots. Ressa the Mel Lori could see mineral deposits that indicated underground water. Danny explained what colors to look for. The Corvalli could sense moisture through their root-like feet. Danny taught them how to combine that sense with observation of surface signs. Why do you help us? Pilu asked. Your survival rating would improve if we failed. Danny shook his head. That is not how my people think. We survived on Earth because we worked together. One human alone is weak. A group of humans together conquered a planet full of predators, diseases, and natural disasters. But we are not humans, Ressa pointed out. No, you're better in some ways. Pilu can dig faster than any human. Ressa can see things I cannot. The Corvalli can sense water from far away. Goran can carry more supplies than 10 humans. Danny smiled. Imagine what we can do together. They found a second water source before midnight. Using Brevin digging speed and Melori sight and Corvalli sensing and human knowledge, they located and accessed an underground spring in half the time Danny had taken alone. Goran stood beside the new waterhole. His cracked skin was already healing. Dravosi bodies recovered quickly when given resources. Human, he said. Danny. My name is Danny. Danny. Goran seemed to test the name. On my world, those who save your life become blood brothers. It is our highest honor. I did not save your life. I just shared knowledge. Knowledge that saved my life. It is the same. Goran placed one of his 4 hands on Danny's shoulder. The weight was enormous, but the touch was gentle. You have 17 blood brothers now, Danny of Earth. We will not forget. The other cadets gathered around. Different species, different worlds, different bodies. But something had changed between them. They were no longer competitors. They were survivors. Together, Danny looked at their faces, human and alien, and felt something familiar. This was what rescue work had always been about. Not saving people. Teaching people to save themselves and each other. In the command center, Morven's scales had turned a color his assistant had never seen before. A deep gold, like sunset. Sir, are you all right? I am reconsidering everything I thought I knew, Morven said softly, which is uncomfortable at my age. The survival timer showed 41 hours remaining. More than enough time. For the first time since the assessment began, Morven believed the human might actually survive. He just had not expected the human to bring everyone else with him. Danny felt the storm before anyone else noticed it. A change in the air pressure, a strange taste on his tongue, a prickling sensation across his skin. These were warnings his body had learned to recognize from years in the Arizona desert, where dust storms could appear from nowhere and kill without mercy. Something is coming, he announced to the group. The cadets looked at the clear sky. Both suns were shining. There were no clouds. I see nothing, Ressa said, her 4 eyes scanning the horizon. It is not visible yet, but it will be soon. We have maybe 2 hours. In the command center, alarms began sounding. Morven stared at the weather display as a massive ionic dust storm formed in the northern sector. It was moving fast, faster than predicted. Sir, protocol requires immediate extraction, his assistant said. Ionic storms are lethal to most species. Morven hesitated. His hand hovered over the extraction button, but something stopped him. The human had predicted this storm before the Academy's advanced sensors. He wanted to see what the human would do next. Delay extraction by 1 hour, Morven ordered. Monitor closely. At the camp, Danny was already organizing everyone. We need shelter, he said. The riverbed is our best option. The walls will block some of the wind and electricity. Everyone start digging into the sides. Create caves large enough to hide in. What about the water source? Pilu asked. Cover with rocks. We will need it after the storm passes. The cadets worked together. Brevin claws tore into the riverbed walls, creating shelter spaces. Dravosi's strength moved heavy stones. Melori eyes watched the approaching storm, reporting its position. The Corvalli used their wooden bodies to reinforce the shelter entrances. 30 minutes later, the storm became visible. A wall of brown and orange, stretching from ground to sky, moving toward them like an angry god. Lightning crackled inside the dust, not white, but purple and green, strange colors created by the ionic particles. Everyone inside, Danny ordered. Now, the cadets rushed into their shelters. Danny counted them as they passed. 15, 16. He needed 17. Pilu was not there. Danny looked toward the storm. The Brevin was frozen on the ridge above the riverbed, wings locked in terror. The wind was already picking up, pushing against Pilu's small body. Pilu, move! The Brevin did not respond. Fear had paralyzed them completely. Danny ran. He sprinted up the slope, fighting against the wind that grew stronger every second. The first dust hit his face like tiny knives. His eyes watered. His lungs burned. He reached Pilu and grabbed them, wrapping his arms around the insectoid body. Pilu was light, lighter than a human child. Danny turned and ran back toward the shelters. The storm caught them halfway down. The world became chaos. Wind screamed in Danny's ears. Dust filled his nose and mouth. He could not see more than a few steps ahead. Lightning struck the ground nearby, close enough that he felt the heat and smelled burning earth. He kept running. He held Pilu against his chest and pushed forward, step by step, guided only by memory and instinct that a shape appeared in the dust. Goran, standing at the shelter entrance, one massive arm extended. Danny grabbed it, and the Dravosi pulled them both inside. The shelter was dark and loud. The storm raged outside, shaking the walls, throwing sand through every gap. But they were alive. "Your arm," Pilu said. Their voice was shaking. Danny looked down. A lightning strike had grazed his left arm during the run. The skin was burned, red and blistered, already starting to hurt as the shock wore off. "It is nothing," Danny said. "Are you hurt? You saved me. You ran into the storm to save me." "What?" Danny leaned back against the shelter wall. The pain in his arm was growing, but he had experienced worse. "Because that is what we do. Humans. People who care about each other." The storm lasted for 6 hours. When it finally passed, the landscape had changed. New dunes had formed. Old landmarks had disappeared. But the shelters had held. The water source was intact beneath its stone covering. 17 cadets emerged into the calm air. All alive. All safe. In the command center, Morven sat in silence. He had watched the human run into a deadly storm to save a cadet from another species. He had watched the human return, injured but successful. He had watched something that no training manual could explain. "Sir," his assistant said quietly, "the survival timer shows 3 hours remaining. Should we proceed with scheduled extraction?" Morven nodded slowly. His scales were that deep gold color again. "Prepare medical attention for the human. Burns from electrical discharge." "Yes, sir." "Sir, what will you write in your report about this?" Morven did not answer for a long moment. He was still watching Danny on the screen, helping the Brevin drink water, checking on each cadet despite his own injury. "I do not know yet," Morven finally said. "I'm still trying to understand what I have witnessed." The extraction ships launched. On the scorched desert floor, Danny looked up at the sky and waited. His arm hurt. His body was exhausted. But around him stood 16 beings who were alive because of shared knowledge and cooperation. 0.4% survival odds. Danny smiled through cracked lips that he had beaten worse. The medical bay was quiet except for the soft hum of machines. Danny sat on an examination table while an automated system treated his burned arm. The cool gel and regenerative spray felt good against the damaged skin. He would have scars, but he would keep the arm and a door open behind him. Instructor Morven entered alone, his 4 arms clasped behind his back, his scales a thoughtful shade of purple. "Human, Danny Reeves." "Instructor." Morven walked to the window and looked out at the academy grounds. Other cadets were being processed, treated, debriefed. Of 40 who had started, 31 had survived. It was the highest survival rate in academy history. "I reviewed all footage from your assessment," Morven said. 3 times. "I still do not fully understand what I witnessed." "What part confuses you?" "All of it." Morven turned to face him. "You had the lowest equipment rating, the lowest survival probability. By every measure we use, you should have died within hours. Your measures were incomplete." "Yes, I am beginning to understand that." Morven's scales shifted colors as he spoke, reflecting emotions Danny was learning to read. "You found water where our sensors said no water existed. You made tools from rocks with your bare hands. You taught other species techniques that took my people generations to develop. And then you ran into a lethal storm to save a cadet you had known for less than 2 days." Danny shrugged with his good shoulder. "It seemed like the right thing to do. That is what I do not understand. The assessment was individual. Your survival rating would have improved if others failed. By helping them, by sharing your water and knowledge, you reduced your own advantages. This is not logical survival behavior. Maybe your definition of survival is too narrow." Morven was silent for a long moment. Then he moved to a console and pulled up Earth's historical records. "After watching you, I researched your species more thoroughly. Not biology this time. History. He scrolled through images as he spoke. I found stories of humans carrying wounded strangers from battlefields at risk to their own lives. Humans sharing food during famines, even when they were starving. Humans building shelters for others they would never meet. Danny nodded. We have always done these things. Why? It defies evolutionary logic. Helping competitors should weaken your species, not strengthen it. Because we learned something a long time ago. Danny met Morven's eyes directly. One human alone is weak, slower than predators, weaker than the environment, unable to survive extreme cold or heat or drought. But humans together? We crossed ice ages. We hunted animals 10 times our size. We spread across our entire planet and then reached for the stars. Cooperation. More than that. We did not just cooperate with each other. We cooperated with everything. We taught dogs to hunt with us. We taught horses to carry us. We learned from every creature and every environment we encountered. That is how humans survive. We learn, we adapt, and we share what we learn. Morven looked at the images on his screen. Humans alping humans. Humans alping animals. Humans alping strangers. A pattern he had never considered. The other cadets, he said slowly, they have requested to train with you. Not just Pilu and Goran. All of them. Even cadets who are not in your group want to learn your methods. I will be happy to teach them. That is what I expected you to say. Morven closed the historical files and opened a new document. I am writing my official assessment report. I must assign you a new survival rating. What number? I considered many options. Your physical rating remains low. Your biological capabilities are limited compared to most species. But after what I witnessed, I cannot rate you the same way I rate others. Morven typed something into the document. Then he turned the screen so Danny could see. The new rating was not a number. It was a classification, Cooperative Adaptation Specialist, highest galactic rating. I created a new category, Morven explained, because the old categories could not measure what you demonstrated. Your survival capability is not based on what you can do alone. It is based on what you help others do together. Danny read the assessment. At the bottom, Morven had written a recommendation. All future survival training should incorporate human methodology. Not because humans are physically superior, but because they understand something the galaxy has forgotten. Survival alone is just existing. Survival together is civilization. This is too much, Danny said quietly. It is accurate. That is all that matters. Morven's scales turned that deep gold color again. I have taught survival for 200 years. I thought I understood everything about staying alive. You taught me something new in 3 days. A knock came at the door. Pilu entered, wings fluttering nervously. Behind them stood Goran, Ressa, and a dozen other cadets. We heard Danny was here, Pilu said. We wanted to see if he was all right. Danny smiled at them. His arm hurt. His body was exhausted. But looking at these beings who had survived together, who had learned together, who had become something more than competitors, he felt something deeper than physical comfort, that he felt hope. I am fine, he said. Just a small burn. Nothing serious. Goran moved forward and placed a hand on Danny's good shoulder. Blood brothers check on blood brothers. It is our way now. Your way? Morven observed. Not Dravosi tradition. Not human tradition. Something new. Something we learned together, Pilu agreed. Morven watched them gather around the human. 17 beings from different worlds, different bodies, different histories. United by shared suffering and shared triumph. By knowledge freely given and lives freely saved. This, he realized, was what his survival training had always been missing. Not techniques or equipment or ratings, but this simple truth that one small human had demonstrated without words. The strongest survival strategy in the universe was caring about someone other than yourself. Morven added one final line to his report, then closed the document. The line read, I was wrong about humans, and I am grateful for the lesson.